Hello, this is Donna Kato. Welcome to my channel. Now today we're going to just do something kind of fun. Fun. I made this some time back, and you know what it is? It's a maraca. So everything we make doesn't have to be jewelry or, you know, some kind of picture frame or something. Go ahead, make a maraca. So simple. And, you know, it's something you can do with the kids, but inside is a Christmas ball. You know that glass is very fragile, so you're going to have to do the beginning by yourself, and then of course you can bring the kids in or anyone in who wants to help with the decorating part. So that's not the part you have to be so careful with. Okay, so this is what I made before. It is not what we're making today. We're going to be using different canes. Some of the canes from the black and white series. I have some Starry Night canes worked in mud cloth colors. They were made from cane ends. Here is the first of the mud cloth tutorials. This was the second of the mud cloth tutorials. So those are the things we're going to use. Now, here is a Christmas ball. We're going to have to cover it, and we're going to cover it with a thin layer of scrap clay, which I have here. Now, this has been rolled through, setting 3 on my pasta machine, and I think that's fine. So I'm going to start by covering the ball. I'm just going to trim the top a bit here. And basically, I want a sheet that's wide enough to cover the ball from here all the way to the center of the top. Okay. So I like to just sort of arrange it that way so it looks like it will cover the bottom, and it looks like it might be a little shy at the top. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just going to take and wrap it. Oops. I'm going to try to take it and wrap it all the way around. Try to wrap it straight. All the way around like so. Okay. So, you guys know these Christmas balls are quite fragile. The glass is not very thick. So when you're handling them, of course, you have to be a little careful. You can't be rough with them. Okay, so there we go. So now I've got it around sort of like the equator of the ball. So I'm going to take one side and I'm going to stretch it out slightly and just pull it over like that. You see? So let's just say that this is the center. Let's say that's the North Pole. Okay, so now I've trimmed that away. Now I'm going to take the other side and I'm just going to pull it over like so. And yes, I am stretching it lightly, which is allowable. It is perfectly fine to stretch it to make it fit. Okay. Okay, very good. All right, now I'm going to push this down a bit, like so. And let's just cut. And I'm always cutting to the North Pole. Just stretching it over. And then pushing the clay down to the ball, like so. And then trimming the excess away, like so. If there's a space, all I do is I stretch it and make it meet. Okay. Okay, and let's just cut straight up like this on this side, like so. And then take this clay and just kind of flatten it into that space. Like that. Take the blade and I kind of roll it over. You can see. Okay, and let's do the same thing on this side. Try to like stretch it where it needs to stretch. And that's an awful lot of clay there to try to get in, isn't it? So I think I will just make a cut like that, pull it back, then flatten. And now I will cut along here and along there. But you should be able to do this pretty easily, and by doing it and working in this fashion, you don't get big lumps anywhere. Okay, good deal. Because you don't really want big lumps, do ya? I don't. I'd like it not to be lumpy. And you know, I don't want to have to sand it much either. Now, this is just the first layer. I will be putting more clay on the surface. This black layer is actually the second layer of clay. But I really want it to be nice and smooth. So that is the top. I have covered the North Pole. Now it's time to deal with the South Pole, but the South Pole has a great big hole in it, like so. Okay, so let's try the same thing. Now, I think I'm going to have to do a fair amount of stretching here, which is okay. It's okay. It can be done. But what I want to stretch it enough so that I can just wrap a little bit of that clay around on the inside in the opening. Okay. Like to cover that up. So nobody wants to get cut. Okay, so there. Now let me trim away some of the excess. And perhaps I could have made this sheet just a tad wider. It would have given me a little more clearance. It looks like it's just a little bit, a tiny bit too narrow, but we'll make it. Okay, there's the beginning. Now let's push this over a bit. And then I'm going to use the blade and cut like so. And I'm going to try to stretch. But you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stretch it enough. I suspect I'm going to have to put a little more clay there. It's not a tragedy. It's just, if I had made the sheet just a tiny bit wider, then I wouldn't have to do that. So there's the first lesson. The first lesson, make that sheet wide enough. Okay, so let's keep working our way around. All right. We are almost there, I think. Then I'm just going to have to put a little patch in around the lip of the ball. All right, now I have to put that clay. See, I didn't have quite enough here, so I'm just going to cut this away here, like so, and take a strip and wrap it around. So just remember, make yours wider. And then you won't have to do this. Not a huge problem, but kind of an unnecessary one, right? Okay, so I'm going to continue smoothing. And what you want to do at the opening is actually push the clay into the hole. Now, this is quite a bit of clay. I don't need quite that much at the hole itself. So I'm just going to cut just, not a lot of it, but just some of it. Like so. And I think that's better because now I can just take and gently fold the clay down so that it covers that glass edge. I mean, that really is the purpose here. Because once I get this clay on and it's cured, then you can't even reach the glass, and you certainly can't get cut by it. So that's good. That's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. Okay, so there's the opening. And here is the ball. And I'm going to do just a little bit of smoothing, and then I'll put it in the oven. And I will cure this for a half an hour at 300 degrees. And then I will be back. Okay, so I am back, and this isn't really part of the lesson. This is about conditioning. Because I happen to have found a box of black clay that is old. I don't know how old. It could have been made in California. It could have been made in South Carolina. One thing I know for sure, it was not made in Georgia, which is where the factory is now. Old, hard, old, super old clay. But I decided to condition it. So let's talk about what you do when you find out you have a box of ancient clay and you're going to use it. Okay, so first of all, here it was in these 1 ounce pieces. So I know it was, I don't know, that's not really an indication of anything. They sent me the clay and here it is. Okay, so let me first show you one thing. I am cutting it in half. Here's the first indication that this clay is ancient. See all this white? See all this light gray? Well, that means that the ingredients in the clay have separated. The wet has separated from the dry, and I have to get all of these light dry spots incorporated into the clay again. It's really hard. It can be very hard to do. So a situation like this, you know, when clay's like this, using this and rolling and rolling and rolling, I could be rolling for a long time. So I use this. Pound, 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 pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it. And I do, however, pound harder than this. Now, if you're going to be doing this, then what I would like you to do is take the hammer and let it drop into the clay. Whatever you do, do not let the force of the head of the hammer hitting that clay, don't let it like shoot back into your arm. I mean, this is fine. I'm getting there. I'm just, hello. Just like that. Let's go. Now I'm working on my marble, so I'm trying to be careful because I do not want to hit my marble with this hammer. Okay, so I'm just going to thin it until it's just a bit thinner than the thickest setting of the pasta machine. Like so. Okay. Now see this pile? I was really pounding away at the clay, just pounding on it. I'm going to set that aside for now because I'm not finished with it yet. Okay, so you can see the difference. See, all that. So this is the first step to conditioning. The first step to conditioning is that pounding. And look, it's already starting to liquefy. All of that white is starting to get incorporated into the clay. Boink, 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 boink. Okay, so now it is more or less, see, it's just a little bit thicker than the thickest setting of my pasta machine. So I am going to roll it now through, setting number 1. You can see it's starting to pull away. It's like telling me, I want to separate, I want to split, I want to create a great, big, huge mess under the rollers of your pasta machine. I'm not going to let it. I'm resetting my machine to setting 4. It could have been 5. I just stopped at 4. And now this time I'm going to put this edge on the rollers, and I'm not folding it. Do not fold. Ta-ta! Now I'm going, because this is really dry clay. Look at that. See all that? That is still really dry. Okay, now I'm resetting my machine to setting number 6. And I'm not folding it. I'm going to roll it through. The important thing is that I keep it in a sheet. Now at setting 6, this is when I'm going to start folding. I'm going to put the fold on the rollers, and I'm going to roll through. And this clay is still wanting to shred. See, it's wanting to shred on me. But I'm not going to let it. Okay, let's roll it through again. And I have a few crumbles, but it's not bad. Now I'm going to roll it through again. And as long as I can keep it in sort of this sheet, then I'm maintaining control over it. Okay, so let me just roll it through again. And I will continue folding and rolling on this thin setting. And before you know it, the sheet starts sticking together. Okay, we're making serious progress here. Okay. Now, it is at this point that I would add clay softener. Okay? If you add the clay softener too soon, you end up with, well, how can I say this? It's a real mess. Because the clay softener is so wet that the dry clay, the clay that is not conditioned enough and is not sort of sticky enough, it repels it. It pushes it away. It's like, I don't want that, is what it's going to say to you. And then you're going to end up with bits and pieces, and it's going to be like a mess. Okay, so let me get... Oh, I'm going to use this. This is blackout, so I'm going to use blackout instead of the conditioning bar, because you know what, the blackout, in addition to making things black, it makes clay soft. So let's just work the blackout in. blackout. I just love this stuff. It's fantastic. See how sticky it is? Okay, so now I'm going to roll this and work it in. I'm going to reset my machine to 5, though. I think that this is rather thin. Thinner than it needs to be. Okay, now I'm going to continue folding and rolling. I'm just going to keep working it in. And the clay is resisting it a little. See that shredding? That's the clay saying, I'm dry, you're wet, and I don't like you. So I'm going to keep folding and rolling. And before long, they will blend. Okay, so it really doesn't take long at that point. What you can't do is sort of freak out. If you see shredding, just try to keep it in a sheet form. And don't let it get away from you. Okay, so there we go. How to take ancient, who knows from when or where, clay and turn it into totally usable clay again. Okay, so I hope that was a worthwhile demo. Okay, so this is what you're going to need now. Now, so far, you've needed a ball, a Christmas ball, and you've needed scrap clay. Well, the canes you've probably made, and if you're not going to use these canes that you made with me, you probably have other ideas about how you want to embellish them. So I'm going to get the ball that I baked right now out of the oven, and then I'll be back, because the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take that black clay, we're going to cover up that ball. So the Christmas ball is covered with scrap clay and it's cured. Now it's time to cover it with a sheet of black. Now I've rolled this through setting number 4. It is approximately 2 ounces. This is approximately, I think, 1 block of clay because I started with 4 ounces. And this is about 2 ounces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this ball as I did before. I'm going to put a little liquid clay on, then I'm going to wrap it around, and just as I did before, I'm going to cover it. So I don't think you need to see that because you already watched me do the whole thing. So I will be back when this is covered. Okay, so I'm back again. I have just started and I realized maybe I should tell you how wide this is. It is as wide as my Atlas 150, which is, let me get a ruler. Okie dokie, that's 1, oh, it's, it's a little more than 5 inches. Okay, so start with something that's about 5 inches, and I think you'll be okay. All right, I will be back. Okay, so I covered the ball with the black clay. And you know what? At the neck, you don't have to have the black clay come up all the way and then push it in again because we're going to put a bunch of scrap clay around the base and you won't even see the neck at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to texture the whole thing with a sponge. And then I think just for fun, I'm going to put some crystals. Make little sparklies. Just little sparkly guys. Here I'll use 2. And I can just push at the same time. And as I'm pushing, I won't be flattening any area because I've got 2 sponges. Okay, so let me just finish this. And then we're going to put some crystals on here. I don't use a lot of crystals, but I don't know. I think it might be really nice on my little maraca. Okay. Now, I love these little tiny crystals. And I'm going to texture more after I put them on, I think. But if you look, you can see these little tiny, eeny, weeny, little tiny crystals. So let me just sprinkle some out. Now, they're very hard to pick up. So this is a little pencil that I have. And so it just picks them up. So is that the North Pole? Am I close? I think I might be close. So let me try. Yeah, I think that's close. So now I will just push it down into the black clay. And really I want the clay to sort of capture the crystal. And then later when I come back and I push the clay down, I think it will help just really capture that crystal inside. So I have 1 crystal so far, and I will pick up another. And let me try to find kind of the equator. I think the equator might be right there. Of course, it's not going to be absolutely perfect because I can't make it perfect. I would if I could, but I can't. Okay, so there's the first equator crystal. Now I'm going to swing around and see if I can find the exact corresponding spot on the other side. That looks pretty good. Let me try to push it down here like so. Okay. Now I will do these 2, and then I will start to fill it in around. So I think you get the picture. It'll just be little sparkly shots. Okay, so I will continue, and then I'll be back. So I put crystals all over. I spaced them best I could. But now I have to go back, and I have to press the clay up around each one. Okay, now when I pushed them in, I pushed them as far in as I could. So they went through the black clay, and they should have hit the scrap clay beneath. So I sunk them as deeply as I could. Now, this is the first one I've ever made. I don't know. I suspect some of them will not make it. And were I to do this again, perhaps I would make the black sheet a tad bit thicker. That might help, because then I would have more clay to push up around the crystal itself. And these are not, Swarovski or anything. I think these are probably made in China or somewhere. So this is not a major investment and pretty shiny faceted things. If they were Swarovski, I probably wouldn't be doing this. Maybe. All right, and I am going to cure this separately, and then we will make the handle. Actually, we will fill a maraca and then seal it up with the handle. All right, so I'll be back. Okay, friends, so this is where we are. This has been cured. And I rinsed off the powder. Make sure you don't get any water inside the ball itself. Now, what are we going to put in it to make the sound? Now, this time I'm using these small glass beads. And glass makes a nicer sound, I think, than plastic. And these are not very large. I'm going to throw some of these head pins in, and then maybe just a few of these. Now, this is a good way to use beads that you don't particularly like, because you're never going to see them again once you seal them up. So this one, the original one, has a different sound, doesn't it? And to me, it sounds like the beads are larger. Now, one thing that happens if you have very large glass beads or metal beads, you are going to crack the glass bead, the glass ball inside. And when that happens, of course, the beads are then going to hit clay and not glass. So that's going to change the sound too. I think with the smaller beads, it's less likely that these are actually going to crack the glass inside. All right, so I've got 2 strands in here, this long. And then I put maybe 15 and then a few of these. And I could put more in. Okay. So I will do that. I will then put another strand of these inside, and then we'll check it out after. Okay. So if you look at this sample, you can see that what I did was create a sheet, and then I wrapped it around the handle, and I pieced it, cutting away in 2 places, here and here, and then tried to get them back together so they met nicely. Now, I could have just made the raw clay handle that came out like this, and then cut individual strips and wrap them around. So that's just another way I could have done it. But I think I'm going to stick with the other way, which is to roll a nice sheet that's long enough to cover the handle, okay? And then cut slices from the various canes I have and create a sheet. But first, we have to make the handle. And I know I said I was going to put this in, but I think I'm just going to continue moving on. I think the sound is just fine. All right. So to make the handle, you're going to need some scrap clay, of course, and this is about, I would say 2 ounces of scrap clay. And what I'm going to do is roll it up into a cylinder, like so, just tight, like this. Oops, I'm picking stuff up. Let me just cut off the end. It doesn't have to be quite this big, I don't think. All right. And I'm going to taper this just a tad. This end, because I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick this right down in that hole. Okay, so let's take just a wee bit of liquid. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just put it around the opening. Then take and just push it right in like so. And you see I'm just pushing it so that the clay starts moving up around the neck of the ball. Like so, just push it up there. I think this is going to be a pretty one. I like these little crystals dotting the black ball. I like it a lot. Okay, now at this point I can start pulling the handle out. Maybe form a point here. Just draw it out like so. And you know, if you're doing this with kids, you can just form the handle and then give them some canes and let them decorate away. Okay, so I'm just trying to refine the shape of the handle now. Like so. If I want to make this area thicker, then I'll just push from the back, like so. Okay. Now, it's been a while since I made the original one. I do not recall whether I cured it at this point and then covered it. And let me say, it could certainly be done that way. Maybe I will. And then make the sheet and cover it. Now, if I cure it, I can, of course, sand it down and make it really as perfect as possible in terms of the shape. And it certainly doesn't hurt to cure it again. And I think it will definitely make it easier to apply the sheet to the surface. So let's do that. Oops. Oopsie. A little slippery. Okay, so this is going in the oven. And once it's out and cool, we will cover with a sheet made from mud cloth border canes. And I'm going to use the beaded cane, and I'm going to use one of the wavy canes. Okay, so I will be back. So this is cured, and it's still a bit on the warm side, but I did rinse it off. And it makes a nice sound. I like it. Now, the handle cracked because there was so much clay. And I cured it like this, kind of standing up and baking soda, like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my Abranet, because I think, it is looking rather lumpy. And although it's just a Maraca and it doesn't really feel bad, I would like to sand it because I would like it to look better. So I'm going to take my Abranet P80 and I'm just going to start sanding like so. Okay. I love this stuff. See how fast it works? Woohoo, fast. And it lasts quite a long time because it isn't little bits of sand or grit that have been glued to a paper backing. So it really does last quite a while, because what we're sanding also is quite soft. It'd be different if we were working with a material that was so hard. Then of course the Abranet would not last nearly as long as it does. So I will just continue doing this. You know what? I'm gonna find this little block I have. Well, maybe that'll be even a bit easier on my hands. But this is gonna get done pretty quickly. So let me do that and then I will be back. See all that already? All right, so the first thing I did was sand it with this P80, very coarse, really, really, really coarse. It's so coarse it could be difficult to stick raw clay to it. I mean, I would use a lot of poly paste or a lot of liquid, and that definitely would help. But it's so coarse, it's rather like sticking clay to an unglazed ceramic pot. If you've ever tried to do that, you know it's a little difficult. So I'm going to take the P120 and I'm just going to sand it and hopefully make it a little less rough. Okay, so let's sand that all the way down so that it's not quite so textured, porous. Well, it's going to be smoother. Okay, and I think it will help me when I'm going to put a sheet of clay on. It will definitely be better. Okay, so see how sandy it got? So now I'm going to wash it and then I'll be back. Okay, so now let's cover the handle up. As I said before, there are two basic ways of doing it. One is to apply poly paste and all the rest, and then cut slices and put them on. Maybe even before that, I would just put a thin sheet of raw clay on and then sort of arrange the individual slices as I went around. And that's one way of doing it. The second way is what I did, and I described it to you before, which was just to create a sheet, wrap it around. We're going to do the sheet, but I'm going to be a little more organized about it this time. Okay, so I have this sheet of black clay. I rolled it through setting 3 on my pasta machine. And, it's not a terribly thick sheet. Setting 3 is pretty much a medium to a medium thin setting. So we're going to stick with that for now. I'm going to cut a nice clean edge. Whoops. And I've made it black. The sheet itself is black. And the reason I did that was in case some of this shows up here at the top. So then it will, if any of this clay shows, it'll be black like the ball. All right, so let's just take this and wrap it around and see how much I have to decorate. Okay, let's just see how long. So here's the mark. So So let me cut. So this is how much it will take to wrap around and meet neatly, like so. Okay, so how long does it have to be? Well, approximately here, I would say, is where the tip is, right there. So I'm just going to cut that using my handy dandy little ruler. Okay, so let's just cut that. And now we're going to put cane slices on this. All right, I'm going to work on a piece of this cabinet wax. You know, I went to Costco yesterday. I wanted to buy a couple more boxes and I couldn't find them. So I'm hoping they still sell them. All right, so what we have here is almost, well, it's 3 3/4 of an inch. So what is half of 3 3/4? Couldn't be simple, like it couldn't be 4 inches, right? It had to be 3 and almost 3/4 of an inch. So let's see, where's half? This ruler has a nice little handy dandy 0 line, so let me see. So it's approximately there. So that is the half line. Okay, and I'm going to mark it again at the top. Approximately there, and let me actually just lightly draw that center line, because that will be where I cut, and then I will ease the pattern around. When I did this one, the first one, I just I winged it. I was like, oh, I'll just trim a little bit here and mush them together. And then I went, whoa, this is approximately. So I'm trying to be a little more, a little more definite. Okay, so at the very top, let's put these circles. And what I'm going to try to do is cut all the slices the same thickness, of course. And I'm going to try to make them, let's say approximately that thick, maybe 1 millimeter. And I think I will cut one edge so it's nice and square. You didn't see that, but I got this nice and square. Now let's just put that right on that center line and pull that over. Cut another slice. Oh, repeat. So I get a nice cut edge. And now I will butt this right up against there and pull it over. Okay. Not too bad. This slice is thicker than this one, but I'm just going to have to live with it, I guess. All right, so let's do the X's, and we're going to do the same thing. I'll cut the 2 pieces, and I just realized I left my little heater on. I can't wait till winter's over. I've had enough of this. But I think I'm just going to continue for a moment. I'm going to get up shortly, turn that dang heater off. So apologies for the sound of a ceramic heater fan blowing on my feet. I will be back. I'm back. All right, so the next thing I think we'll do is cut a slice off of the Starry Night cane. Okay. And this is actually the lighter one. I have two color, oops. I went way off on that one. Let me try again. I mean, I went so far off, it isn't even funny. So let me try again. Okay, there we go. This I'm going to roll through, and I think I'm going to roll it through the same setting we've been using, which is actually 5 on my machine. 5. And when this happens, it means that the slice was, of course, not the same thickness throughout. It like split because something was thicker or thinner. So let me just put, dun, dun, dun. Okay, boink. Let's put this. Not quite long enough, unfortunately. So I'll have to cut just a little bit more and put right there. Right there. Put that up like that. Just push it up. Okay, so let us take, should we do this guy this way or this guy this way? I think I want this guy going down. All right. I suspect I'm going to need several slices. I'm going to move that aside for the slicing. Okay, so let me roll these through setting 5, like the other one. And cut a little crooked both times. What can I say? What can I say? So, you know, I think I'll go here because I know I'm going to cut there. Then I'm going to do this guy. Whoops. Oopsie. Going to need a couple more slices. Just feed it down. Try to make that straight. If I can make that line straight, I think my life will be a little easier. Okay, I'm going to cut another slice. Roll them through the pasta machine. Okay, cut this guy in half. So I think I can do half on this side and half on that side. I did not really get this corner up against there. If that happens to you, just kind of lift it as gently as you can. Okay, so remember, basically what this is going to look like, I'm going to cut here. This will be uninterrupted around the neck. But then when it gets down to the bottom, the shape is going to get cut like that, more or less. Okie dokie. Now I'm going to trim away some of this. Let's just make it 1.5 inches. I'm just going to try to cut only through the wavy cane, not through the base. And then remove the excess wavy cane, like so. Now what shall we put at the bottom? Right down here. What I have left is the darker, and I think I will do that, only I will have it running that way. Okay, gonna cut. Roll it through setting 5. Again. And with some luck, it's long enough. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. Let's trim the top edge like so. And now I'm just going to put it right there. Okay, so let's just cut some of this excess away, like so. Okay, just cutting some away. Now I know where I'm going to divide. I'm going to be cutting straight along here. But before I do, I think I'm going to do some light texturing. Now, some of these slices are thicker than others. Of course they are. So I'm going to take this off of the paper. I'm going to lightly pat it down. And I know this is thicker than this slice. So let me try to cut a bit off and even it out, especially where they meet, especially where these two slices meet. That's really where it will make the most difference. It's not going to make that much difference here in this thicker area. But just take your time, and you see I'm just really shaving away just very thin little bits of it. All right, so here we've got the same thing happening. Oops, I left behind something there. Oh, that's really weird. Well, I'm just going to leave it. So now I'm just going to try to trim some of this away so that I don't have a very thick slice slamming up against something that's very, very thin. Okay. The temptation is just to say, well, that's okay, it's going to be fine, and to then just kind of push them all together. But that's when you get more pattern distortion. And believe me, I'm not telling you there's not going to be any. There's going to be some. I just think I happen to believe I can make it better. And you know, it's probably not so terribly critical for maracas like this, but you know, if you were making something else, that perhaps jewelry or something like that, and you were selling it, then of course you would want to make it as even as possible. This whole sheet would be as even as you could possibly make it. Now, these pieces are, of course, even. This I rolled through the pasta machine. This I rolled through the pasta machine, and I rolled through the pasta machine this bottom piece as well. So they're all the same thickness. There's no trimming necessary there. So let me get rid of this. All right, so now I'm going to just take and texture this is kind of an optional thing. You might decide you want something that's very smooth. I happen to like the texture, so that's why I'm doing it here. Also, I have a bit more control as I'm texturing. I can control the pattern better if I'm working flat than if I'm trying to texture the piece as it sits on the handle itself. So I find it just a bit easier to do it this way. Now, by pressing like this against the ceramic tile is functioning as that same dam that the paper does. I can push pretty hard, and it's not making the sheet bigger. The sheet is staying the same size, which is what I want. I don't want to make this bigger. I want it to be the same size, but textured. Okay, then I can simply take my blade and lift it off. So let's just do a little quick test. And you know, just handle the sheet gently, gingerly. Okay, so it looks to be almost perfect. Maybe when I actually took it off of, when I slid the blade underneath, I probably compressed it this way, right? I did it this way, so of course the sheet would then become compressed just a little bit because of that. So I'll just stretch it out just a bit. Now let's make sure that upper edge is good. Okay. Now I have to put liquid or poly paste on the handle itself. Because it's very coarse, it's very scratched up. You can see it. Look how gray it is. It's probably a better idea to use poly paste. Okay? Now, this poly paste, I don't know how old this is. I found it in a drawer. I have a lot of old Kato POLYCLAY. Like, it could even be, you know, a beta batch or something. And it has a bit of a drier feel to me than poly paste, the newer poly paste that I have used. You know, it just has a slightly different feel about it. So I'm going to put all this poly paste on. But you know what? I'm going to put liquid clay on top of it. Just kind of soften it up. Just to make sure that, you know, it's as sticky as I need it to be. Because, you know, I want it to be sticky. It has to overcome that very, very coarse texture that I put on. So I believe the combination of that base of poly paste and then the liquid clay on top will give me a nice sticky surface. Okay, so here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut right along that edge that I measured. That's the half mark, right? Looks like pants. Okay, so let me just slide this up. and guide it around the top. Then press these together. Now the pattern didn't quite match up there, but you know, it matched up very nicely along the X. Don't ask me why. It's a mystery. Okay, now I'm just going to take and pull the clay at the tip over like so. You can see I can cut quite a bit of it off. You see where the tip, you can probably see where the tip meets the sheet right there. So I think I'm going to make my life a bit easier and just cut some off. Because you know, I can stretch it too. And it will be fine. All right, now I'm gonna just ease the sides down like so. Okay. Like that. You can see, of course, there's too much clay, right? It's not a problem. Just find the tip point right here. Take your blade and then aim there where they split at the top. Like so. Okay. Now turn it over and repeat. Find the tip, then take, and I actually rock the blade until I hit that point where they separate. Now I've covered half of the bottom. All right, so let's repeat and do the same thing again. I'm going to pull this over to the top. I'm going to cut the excess away. Like so. Then ease the clay down like that to cover half. Okay. Then find that tip. Then cut straight up the side, like so. So now it's just a matter of doing the best job you can to match the pattern up and work your way from the opening all the way up, okay? Now let's repeat on this side. Take my blade, I'm sitting at the tip, then cut straight up, remove the excess, then with your fingers, close the seam, and just do your best to match the pattern. It may not match, but just do your best. Now there appears to be a little more clay on the left side than the right. So it's not really a huge problem. I'm just going to cut some of it away. Like so. Okay. And now, because there isn't too much clay, I can bring them together at the tip. As I said, might not be perfect, but I think it looks pretty darn good. Now I have a little bit of a bigger space here. Luckily, clay will stretch, so you want to just gently push the clay from one side and the other to close the space. Okay, now let's clean this up. And I just use the side of my blade just to try. Now, let's say that the top of yours really needs help. For some reason, something didn't go right. Well, of course, you can always roll a snake and apply a snake around the base of the ball at that connecting point. I think this is fine. Okay, so now I'm going to texture again. And the texturing will also, of course, help close the two joints. Join here and the join on the other side. So just slowly work your way around. All right. And I can tell you one thing for sure. I hadn't really planned the way I did it when I did my original mudcloth maraca, and this worked out much better just by dividing it when it was a flat sheet rather than putting the sheet on and then approximating where half was and cutting and trying to get the right amount removed and bringing it together. This was quite a bit easier. Like it. I think I'm going to put my signature on it. My little signature cane. I think I'm going to put you up at the top. You know what? I know the perfect place. Right there. Right there. The pattern didn't match. It's the perfect place for my signature. What do you think? I love these maracas. I really think it's the best use of a Christmas ball. Okay, so I'm gonna cure that, and I will be back to say goodbye. Okay, all right, so my maraca is done. I have 2 of them. And, you know, it's a fun, simple project, I think. Simple to do. Now, let me say that I didn't talk much about the type of clay to use. Something like this, let me tell you, you do not want to use Sculpey, Super Sculpey, Sculpey 3. Those are very weak clays. And the clay will break, and then you've got to contend with glass. Now, the rest of the clays, I think, are strong enough. I'm using, of course, Kato POLYCLAY, very strong. Once it's cured, I mean, it's not going to break. I can drop it. It's just not going to break. So just make sure you use a good, strong clay, because you don't want this to break, and you don't want to have to deal with glass. All right, so that is it. I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial, and I hope you make your own maracas. So I want to thank you for watching, and that's my dog. You know, until we meet again, I'm Donna Kato. Goodbye.